Morning, everyone in the room. If you wouldn't mind standing up, I'd be tremendously grateful. I'd be rejoicing in all kinds of ways. We're going to stand in Tadasana, the beautiful mountain pose. Recommended, if comfortable, feet together. If not comfortable, feet apart. If apart, level. How do we ascertain level? A midline imagined through the center of each foot that we line up with the other midline. Chest buoyant, high gate. Shoulders down, nasal high, nasal breathing, pushing up through the crown of the head. And straight away, I think you'll feel, I hope you'll feel, I can tell some of you are feeling this shedding experience of shedding whatever the heart mind's taken hold of as we come into this. And to the extent we come into this, and we come into this by movement, through movement. To the extent that we come into this, we shed that. So start with the feet. Start by moving your feet in ways that are not arbitrary or uncertain or based on thought, but ways that you move your feet that serve to tune you in. Tune you in. Tune you in, that is to now. So I've compared this to an old-fashioned radio dial. Your body is like the dial. I've compared it to dowsing. If anyone remembers, dowsing was a bit of a thing for a while, where you have two rods and if they cross over, that means there's water there, water dowsing. And various other, I've compared it to a clean cloth wiping up clean water. So the movement, I've compared it to rubbing sun cream into your skin, bringing one thing together with another. So physical movement is the same as the movement of sun cream on your skin. You want to merge the sun cream with your skin. Here, physical movement, you want to merge the pose with yourself, as it were. So any movement, you don't have to think, is this okay? Will Jim go? Oh, no. Any movement, as long as it releases breath. That's how you know it's right, because as you go in, as you draw everything together, which is the translation of the Sanskrit word yoga, whatever the heart mind has been holding will shed. And then the only obstacle is whether or not we let what is coming up and out. So I often say, don't stand in the way of the exit. Talk more about that. But let's raise the arms. Urdhva Hasta Tadasana. Urdhva means up, Hasta means hands, Tada means mountain, and any movements, like wiggling the fingers, help move the nerves that run out of the brachial plexus in the upper back to the fingers, the three main nerves, the radial nerve, the median nerve, and the ulnar nerve. They all run through to the hands, so moving the hands massage the entire physical nerves, and that increases the hydration of the physical nerves. And physical nerves need flow. They're a physical thing, although they move, electrical currents through them. They need to be limber. They need to have flow. And nerve compression, of course, can cause problems. So we're not just moving the nerves, but we're moving the immediate fascia in their vicinity. When you feel ready, take a wide, beautiful wide circle, returning the hands to the heart center. Take deep breaths. Express yourself, as Aretha Franklin once inspiringly said. So real expression, you can call it karana, which is Sanskrit for expression. So again, as I'm talking to you, I'm using physical movements as a way of avoiding getting caught in stories that are not about now, not about the reality of now. Instead, the movements, as the stories are about the future or the past or ideas about myself. So I use movements to tune out of those, to tune into this. This is why I've compared it to a radio. If you tune into one station, you're naturally tuning out of another. That's one of the advantages of tuning into one station, that you're tuning out of the noise between stations, as it were. Interlace your fingers, stretch your arms, raise up. It's called Urdhva Baddha Angulyasana or Urdhva Baddha Angulyasana Tadasana. Urdhva means up, Baddha means bound, Angulya means fingers, Tada again means mountain. Investigate with a purpose to come together, in my mind, almost everything I say finds a song. Yeah. And I know some other people have got that goes on as well. So with this, it's always the John Lennon "Come Together Right Now" over me, but the pose is singing it, right? So you're using the pose to come together right now over me. And then you get that really great drum thing that Ringo did. So that's the whole, why you're doing something changes how you're doing it. Why we're doing it, to come together. What are we bringing together? Everything. Muscle fibers with other muscle fibers. Breath with the body. Mind with the body. Subject and object come together. It's not a dream. It's not an idea. It's not an opinion. It's not a fantasy. It's a very, very real feeling of coming together. And it's real because it has hallmarks like shedding. You feel like you're dropping that which was heavy, that which attached, ideas, opinions. You become, as a result, increasingly light. I've compared it to a dandelion seed, and I've compared it to the agility that a dandelion seed has to respond to even subtle current changes. Take a big, wide circle, hands back to the namaskara, deep expressive breaths. And we're always avoiding getting snagged. When I was a kid, I used to really like watching Tarzan on the telly on Saturday. I liked it a lot. And one of the things I liked about it was the opening scene where Tarzan runs in his very tiny underwear through the jungle, jumping over things, swinging through things. There was a sort of flow to it. And usually after I watched Tarzan, I would take myself to the garden or the nearby woods and run barefoot through the woods. And it's a similar thing. You're moving in a way you don't want to get snagged. Tarzan seemed to move through the jungle, which is, of course, a Sanskrit word, jungala, move through the jungle without getting snagged. And in the same way, we are moving, avoiding getting snagged in thoughts, caught in a thought, an opinion, an idea, a memory. So we're moving in this way that's described as vahita, flow. So I don't know if that metaphor lands, walking through even woodland without getting snagged. Stretch your arms out like you're in an inspiring advert for religion or vitamins, and breathe through your nose, or other health food products. They seem to advertise like this, don't they? Health food products, bran flakes or something. Eat your bran and you feel fantastic. Kefir, yeah, that would be something advertising, a new kefir drink. You're feeling marvelous. And then when you're ready, the right arm will come over the top of the left arm. And then again, I like to do it, see what you think, more than once. Because each time I do it, there's a little bit more letting go. I'm letting go of, without even thinking about it really, of that which is resistant. I'm telling my nervous system that I'm coming into this pose. And so the nervous system starts shedding what it's holding in opposition to this pose, which usually has ideas and opinions. When you feel ready, you wrap round to wherever you can. And I like lots of little movements together. That's what I like. And I base that on the very early Buddhist text, the Dhammapada, where the Buddha says a jug fills drop by drop, meaning he refers to positive and negative things like that. You can change your life drop by drop. Just taking one small, insignificant, seems like insignificant act and will help to condition another and another and another. And before you know it, you've learned a language, learned to play guitar or whatever, or moved your arms around in this Garudasana. And we've got two choices. We're going to bend ankles, knees, and hips, which is a great stretch for the calcaneus tendons from the calf muscles to the heels. And you can stay like that and play, and I get a lot out of that. You can lean forwards and back and whatever you want. A good old lean forwards, whatever works. Or you can add the opposite leg to the top arm as the top leg, which wraps around without force. And if you're slow and you move cell by cell, Sometimes the toes wrap round, doesn't matter if they don't. And that's another option. So you're either doing it on one leg, or you're doing it with both feet on the floor. And in this way, we up the ante, don't we? Which points to this whole tantric paradigm, using a thorn to remove a thorn, or a Patanjali paradigm, using a pattern to dislodge other patterns. Okay, good, groovy, great. And then release your arms. Take some breaths, move in any way that's natural, so you feel loose. And again, look for the signs of looseness in the breath. The mind, nothing. The mind doesn't have to cloud this in any way. Doubt, samshaya, doesn't have to kick in. I'm never going to go, that's not allowed, if it's coming from the heart, if it's causing shedding. Stretch your arm, open up, again, like you're feeling inspired, like one of those new Christian groups for young people. They often do like adverts like this, don't they? Stretching up. They might use Photoshop to put light coming down. Now they'll probably just use AI. Donald Trump also uses images like this, doesn't he, of himself as Jesus Christ. When you're ready, the other arm comes over the top, and again, feel it cell by cell. Sometimes it's nice to pause, isn't it? And spend, just to shed, and then, whenever you want, shedding, dropping whatever the heart mind took hold of. Huh? Whatever, and it means whatever. We presume utility, don't we, in holding on to this or that or the other. For example, if we hold on to a pet peeve, we think somehow that person who's, affronted us in some way, perhaps, or persons, perhaps they'll learn their lesson if we keep grumpy about it. Of course, they don't know anything about our grumpiness. When you're ready, wrapping around in your own time, again, I really recommend the molecule by molecule attitude. And I feel confident that I would feel a lot stiffer if I didn't think about my body in that way, molecule by molecule. And I would arrive at certain places and think that's that. Molecule by molecule. It's lovely. Again, we can bend ankles, knees, and hips, and that's a wonderful place to be. There's so many variations, including sort of Uttanasana, forward bend versions, or bent knees, or pelvic movements. It's a really good way to limber your back up, isn't it? To limber the back up. Whenever you feel, and if you want, that is, you can stay with both feet on the floor, or if you want, take the opposite leg to the top arm and wrap that around. There's a sense in which, by twisting opposite sides of the body, the energy from the lateral channels, which represents mundane or karmic energy, conditioned activity, that energy is poured into the central channel, which itself represents non-duality, centeredness, non-bias, karma-lessness. In other words, action that is agile, action and reflection that is open, like a blue sky is open. Okay, when you're ready, release nice and calm. Any movements that come, any movements that feel like they're shedding, you don't have to think about it even one bit. It just happens. If you think about it, then you go to samshaya, because thinking's job is to present for different things. You could do this or that, but thinking's job is never to tell you which one is the right one. It just goes this or this, and you're like, so you go to doubt unless you use the heart. And then the heart knows. The heart is the emptiness that I'm talking about. Raise up your left arm. Now, you might need to use a belt actually for this, because we're going to bring the other hand round and either use the belt to hold or take a direct hold if you've got long forearms. The advantage of this isn't about holding one hand with the other, because that's done very easily like this. But the advantage of this is drawing down the descending fibers of the trapezius of the lower arm. And that's a fancy pants way of saying that the upper part of the trapezius muscle that runs from the skull to the shoulder blades and the collarbones, and particularly the lateral third, those descending fibers, they often get tense and pull up our shoulders when we're shouldering responsibilities. And there's a very close connection between shouldering responsibilities and being someone who is juxtaposed against everything else. Here's me, there's everything else. Such a someone doesn't exist. There you go. There's the news. A someone juxtaposed, discrete and autonomous, made up of thoughts, ideas, opinions, physical sensations, doesn't exist. I said it again. The news is out. In the sense that whatever is we feel in the body, in the mind, is co-created by opinions that have been planted into us since childhood, by life events, by things we've read. Like, you know, if we had been born in ancient Egypt, we'd be having very different thoughts to the thoughts we have now. But, you know, in the same sense, they're not mine, they're co-created. When you're ready, slow and calm release. Take a deep breath. Take a few deep breaths. So this simple exercise, and you can do the other side when you're ready, drawing down the descending fibers of the trapezius negates the shoulder-raising tension of duty, responsibility, that is closely associated with descriptors of self. We have duties and we feel that are incumbent on us depending on the descriptors we have. A parent, a child, a relative, a partner, an employer, an employee, a citizen, a member of a particular group or religion. So these identifiers give us responsibilities we feel that go with them, with the titles, with the title, you know, son, daughter, brother, partner, parent, grandparent, and on and on. Various job descriptors and on and on. Even the descriptors we give ourselves, such as good person. So here, take away the symptom, risen up shoulders. You'll undermine the cause, this sense of shouldering things, and you'll undermine the fundamental cause, self-descriptor. Leaving the mind karma-less. Karma-less. So breath is key, because breath is the mirror to the flow that indicates non-attachment or allowing. When you're ready, slow and easy release. Well done. Give your fingers a bit of a wiglet, bit of a breath. You can put your belt down. And then we're going to bring our arms behind us and hold the elbows, or as one Italian friend of mine used to call them elbones, not knowing that that was the wrong translation, but I always enjoyed that. Elbones. Quite good because the arms are like bent like that. Elbones. It's kind of cute, isn't it? Anyway, you can hold your elbows or bring your arms up your back into Paschima Namaskara. And you can see the way I go about this is cell by cell. I'm using the spinous processes of my back to work my pectoralis, chest muscles, little by little, fiber by fiber, over time. Stepping apart generously when you feel ready. Tune in, if you can, through relaxation to the pelvic floor. When you tune in on the pelvic floor, you might come up with, the mind might create ideas. What am I supposed to do? But those are just ideas, including I is an idea. It's an idea that's superimposed on reality, which is interdependent. So I'm not supposed to do anything, just tune in. That's it. So in Vajrasattva Yoga, we look at the equation between listening, responding. They're the same. Listening and response are the same. Concentrate just on the listening, tuning in, and the response is part of that. You, as a person, don't need to do anything. The response might take the form of movement or buoyancy at the pelvic floor. The pelvis might move. It's not a thought. It's usually called muladhara. And muladhara means root support. We could talk about that a lot, but we won't. We'll turn the back toes in, front foot and leg out, whole body turns round. In the case of us lot in real life, as it were, at the Buddhist Center, we're facing towards the sun. Lightly tone the tummy. If you don't feel squared up, try walking your front foot further across the width of the mat away from this side of the room. And then try lifting your back heel, externally rotating it and bringing it down again. In other words, you internally rotate the back leg thigh. Yoga has simply 2 stepping stones. A rich experience. Let's focus on the stretch of the inner groin of the back leg. A rich experience. Let's focus on the stretch of the inner groin of the back leg. And then giving to that rich experience. So can you feel the inner groin of the back leg? And it wants to twist, lift, and release. The inner groin of the back leg wants to twist round, so you square up, lift up towards the spine where it attaches, the muscle attaches, and release into that uplift. When you feel ready, lift up more in the inner groin on the inhale. On the exhale, extend from the inner groin of the back leg forwards. It's sort of out of the inner groin, you could say. You breathe deep, you breathe natural, you gather your cells, gather the molecules. And the culmination of gathering and gathering and gathering culminates in what Patanjali calls eventually samadhi, where nothing is doing anything other than this, not a single cell, which of course means the whole nervous system is gathered. It takes, well, who knows? It doesn't matter. Timeless time. From the inner groin of the back leg, ascend with strong legs, turn back to the front, keep your hands in position, sorry, not sorry to say, and then turn your back tootsies in, front foot and leg out, whole body turns round to Sovereign House, where they will be building for the rest of all eternity, it seems. Walking the front foot further across the width of the mat to square up, lift your back heel, externally rotate it, bring it down again. So be generous across the width of the mat. We want a minimum of heel to heel, but up to hip width across the width of the mat. Think of the mat like a swimming pool with a length and a width. We want to go fairly wide across the width, so we square up. Focus on that inner groin, psoas, lower insertion, inferior insertion on the top of the inner thigh. As it goes across the pubis, twists round as we turn and attaches to the sides of the lower spine, including the bottom bone of the thoracic region, the 12th thoracic vertebrae. As you breathe really calm, lift up from that inner groin on the inhalation and release into it. Psychophysically exhaling, come forwards and release out of it, out of the inner groin of the back leg. It's a psychophysical instruction. It's a psychophysical instruction. Just as the earth has several seas, so does the yoga world have three. Calmness, conditions, connection. They're different kind of seas, obviously. Messing around with words. Calmness. You want to connect? You want the nervous system to connect? Calmness. Lead with the bottom of the breastbone to come calmly up, anchoring yourself on your back foot, turning back to the front, walk your feet towards each other, and now the moment you've been waiting for. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not sure you can. Sarah's stuck for the rest of her life there. Bring yourself down to the floor with your arms, well, you know, they're like, oh God, my arms. And just sit cross-legged, legged. Can sit on blocks if you, and should sit on blocks if your lower back collapses. Often we don't know if the lower back's collapsing or not, but the bottom of the breastbone can tell us. We want to spend a bit of time massaging through the IT bands on the outer legs. And if the IT bands become softer, the adductors also, then as the legs go down and the back releases out from what we've been doing, then slowly we can investigate more space or spaciousness in the lower back. Space or spaciousness. Eventually, this should culminate in the bottom of the breastbone, the xiphoid cartilage, feeling light, like we float gently from this part up. So it's like this part of the ribs and chest floats as if on water. Palms can face up. If you don't feel that floating coming at any point, that's when you sit on 1 or 2 blocks. If you're on 2 blocks, you use a blanket under your shins. It's worth being very, very clear that props are one of the defining characteristics of a yogin, historically speaking. A historian who wants to find out who the yogin is in the wall relief will look for the person with props. Whether that be a danda, a stick, a pata, a strap, a trishula, a trident, or an asana, which can also mean a mat of some kind to sit on, or another version of the word asana is like a little throne that's sat on, and on, various props. So it's often a sign of an advanced yoga practitioner who uses props and knows how to use them and when to use them to create space in the body, lightness in the body. Gradually, as we're settling, there's natural movement, probably, which is part of the meditative process of letting go. Remember, I mentioned before the radio station, tuning into one has the benefit of tuning into the station you want, but also the benefit of tuning out of all the noise between the stations, if you see what I mean. Mental noise. So you tune the body into this. It takes time, just as it does with an old-fashioned radio. Not many people can just take the dial and go one turn and perfect. Mostly you go back and forth, often making the movement smaller as time goes by. Inhale when you're ready. Exhale, right hand on the floor behind you, fingertips. You can use a block, and the left hand crosses over both legs. This is Parivrita Sukhasana. Breathe through your nose if you can. Pari means round and round or very. Vrita comes from the root vrit, which means to whirl round and round. So this is Parivrita, to go round and round with going round and round. Sukha, easeful space. So this is a Parivrita, and round, easeful. If you can combine those two things, going round and round, and easefulness, you'll alight on that perfect combination of action and receptivity that is reabsorption of subject and object into each other, negating the duality of subject-object and replacing it with experience only. Like in Zen, the idea, chop wood, carry water, means just experience chopping wood, just experience carrying water, just the experience of carrying water is like this. That's subject-object union or yoga. Lift and turn, keep lifting, turning, all the way around the other way. Similarly, the Parivrita, around and round with going round and round. You see what I mean? Round and round with going round and round. Not holding the breath, expressive, honest. We compare it sometimes in these classes to a closed fist becoming an open palm. And of course, we are usually habituated to gripping, grasping, grabbing. It's just a habit, though. It's just a habit. And like with any habit, first thing you got to do is stop doing it. And gripping, grasping, grabbing, just stop doing it. When you're ready, nice and calm, return to center. We're going to lay down on our backs, which is usually news that people find pleasing to hear. So laying down on your back. Some of you wanted that news from the moment you came in. There you go. Takes care of itself, doesn't it? Yeah. Just, you don't have to take deep breaths. They just happen, don't they? You don't have to let go. It just happens, doesn't it? The superimposed conceptual idea, habitual idea that there's an I and a discrete autonomous agent doing 99% of the things in our lives just isn't there. It says, and that's a wonderful release. So we can observe it here. Who's breathing? It just happens, doesn't it? Who's releasing? There's just release, isn't there? It's not really the negation of self. It's the negation of self as juxtaposed against other. Huh? There you go. That's the best statement I'm going to make today, by the way. Probably all week. It's not really the negation of self. It's the negation of self as juxtaposed against other. It's the negation of the subject-object duality. Raise up your footlings, your feet. Extend your knees. And feel free to do anything that feels like it causes shedding. Swinging the legs, wagging the tail, moving the footlings, taking deeper breaths. Anything. You can, like you might think, oh gosh, I'd love to bend the knees. Go ahead if you want. It's no problem. The only thing we're interested in here is that which causes the breath to become expressive, become natural. So movement of any kind, movement of the feet, movement of the ankles, movement of the calves, not holding the breath. Now go ahead and raise your arms as well. As some of you know, I'm a big fan of the woodlouse. I meet many a woodlouse in my back garden, in our back garden, quite commonly, so much so that Francis, who usually does the door on a Saturday, once handmade me a beautiful card with woodlice on the front of it and a whole list of different names for woodlouse that people have had over the years, including chiggy pig. It's a name people used to call woodlouse chiggy pigs, apparently. Anyway, I'm quite fond of them. They sometimes fall on their back, don't they? Have you ever seen it? I'm sure you have. And you're probably like me. You'll probably feel like, oh, I've got to help that woodlouse. There it is, laying on its back, flailing like we're flailing now, trying to get back on its legs. All you got to do is put your finger near the woodlouse's little legs, and that little woodlouse will grip onto your finger, and you'll be able to right it. That's good news for woodlice. Now for you, we're moving out of the whole woodlouse stage and bringing your arms over, or chiggy pig stage, over the head, waving them side to side like a woodlouse who's celebrating being righted, being rescued by you, waving your arms side to side. And I say all this positive stuff about woodlice, even though they always eat my strawberries. Every time I think, oh, there's a strawberry, I'm going to eat that tomorrow. The next morning, someone else has eaten it, and it's not just anybody, it's the woodlice. No, it's always the woodlice. I catch them on it. Yeah, they're directly on it. I still love them. Now, once your arms have gone over your head and you've moved your shoulder blades multiple times, the idea is that you're turning the glenoid fossa, the little space in the shoulder blade that your arm bone inserts into, as it were, you're turning that to face up. That's why we do multiple movements. That's why we follow the Buddha's advice. A jug fills drop by drop. Any movements that cause breath release, legs apart, legs together, legs bent, movement of the feet. Any movements that create breath release. Shedding, opening a closed fist, becoming an open palm. Now from here, we're going to meditate, meaning absorb subject and object into each other. Meditate on the lower back, the changing sensations of the molecules as we lower our legs halfway between where they are now and the floor. In other words, to 45 degrees relative to the floor. And you breathe through your nose if you can. Lower back, intimate with the floor. It's another halfway we go now between where we just were and the floor. Then another halfway between where we just were and the floor. Apparently, mathematically speaking, if you keep halving things, you'll never get to the end point. But we also won't get to the end point because we're going to raise our legs back up, keeping the lower back close to the floor, breathing through the nose. If you need to swing the legs, wag the tail, take deep breaths, bend the knees, move your shoulder blades, then do whatever you need. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do the same again. So when you're ready, halfway down, meditating on the living sensations of change in the lower back, another halfway between where you just were and the floor, another halfway between where you just were and the floor, another halfway, keeping the lower back intimate with the floor, and then go back up in the same stages. Yeah, I love you though. Don't think that I don't love you anymore. I love you. It's just, tough love, isn't it? It's like getting your children to eat the vegetables. It's tough love. Take deep breaths, expressive breaths, honest breaths, like a closed fist becoming an open palm, natural movements that are part of that. And I know what you're thinking. One more, Jim? Just one more of that same thing? Okay, well, sing as you begged and use the word please. Then halfway down between where you were and the floor. Lower back close to the floor. Thanks, guys. They're very mannerly. Good manners. Then another halfway down between where you were and the floor. Meditate on the aliveness. It gives you energy and stamina. Another halfway. Focus on the real sensations of movement, of life. Another halfway. Then go back up in the same stages, keeping the lower back intimate with the floor. Intimate with the floor. Once you reach that 90 degrees, then move any way you wanna, taking deep breaths, natural breaths, some play, some lila. Then bend your knees to 90 degrees, please. Pop your hands behind your head. Take deep, expressive inhales and exhales that are honest. Yeah, that's it. Like that. Deep, expressive, honest. Letting go. Trusting in the Shakti of the situation. Shakti meaning power. Power that arises karmalessly. Karmaless power. Lift up your head when you're ready. Breathe through your nose. Meditate on the living sensations. Turn towards these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as you bring opposite knee and opposite elbow towards each other. Breathing calmly through the nose if you can. Return to center and then over the other way, meditating on each and every sensation, not as a thought or an idea, but as a holistic surrender. One more on each side, s'il vous plaît. Raising the opposite leg this time and descending it, keeping the lower back close to the floor, twice. Stay close to the present, at one with the present. Once you've done twice on each side, we will come to rest, but stay with the present if you're in the practice right now. Eventually, back to center. The elbows down, the feet down, and we'll hear that deep breath, I'm sure. That's it. Take a few of those. So sigh-like exhales, deep expressive inhales, filled with Brahman, expansion. Filled with Brahman, expansion. Stretch your arms towards your feet and hold the yoga mat. Don't hold the breath, however. Let that stay expresses as we pull down the descending fibers of the trapezius, like we did earlier. When I remember we were holding one hand with the other behind our backs. And the lower arm was being pulled down on the outer edge of the collarbones. And that was stretching the trapezius. So we've got the same on both sides. Using the mat and breathing into it, like studying sensations, allowing them not to tense up, but to flow. Don't let anything tense up. When ready, tone the tummy in a wave. Tummy in, chest up. Then follow that action by lifting the pelvis. It's like a sort of what's called krama Krama in Sanskrit means a sort of a sequence, a continuum. When you're ready, you start playing with the lift. And perhaps as time goes by, you can externally rotate your upper arms and open your chest more. Keep that lower back on side, as it were. Breathe through your nose. Keep that lower back on side. Not holding the breath, meditating. There's reiteration of Muladhara, pelvic floor support. Mula, root. Adhara, support. Together we call it Muladhara, root support. Coming down, calm, shoulder blades moving out, hands moving out, feet moving away, palms facing up. Let's hear those deep breaths. Some proper expressiveness. No? Some real expressiveness. Now we're going to, from where we are, float the feet and draw them above the floor back towards us. And then the same forward. So we're just floating the feet kind of parallel to the floor, the soles of the feet, and moving backwards and forwards, like sort of Reiki ironing. Just made that phrase up. You know, like Reiki, sometimes Reiki healing, it can be hands off, can't it? Movement. In the same way, it's sort of feet off, but we're going backwards and forwards. Hence my new invention, Reiki ironing. It's about as close to ironing as I ever get, actually. So breathing deep and natural. Backwards and forwards. So you can feel that, I'm sure, at the belly. Backwards and forwards. End up in a flexed position. That means the thighs come close, and let them come closer and closer and closer to the pelvis and the body until your back starts to soften, your back starts to breathe, and eventually culminate with a leg hug and a bit of rolling. A bit of rolling. Sometimes you roll and you find a moment. If you know what I mean, you roll and you find a moment, a richness. Relax the jaw and the temples. Deep, expressive, natural breaths. Look for sensations that cause release. When you're ready, release the legs and place the feet on the floor, and let's hear some and feel some deep breaths. Like a closed fist becoming an open palm. The yogin rests and trusts in shunyata. What is shunyata? Openness. We presume that we've got to be prepared. We have a sort of Baden-Powell kind of attitude. Be prepared. I've got to be prepared for the next relationship by making sure I don't make the mistakes of the one before. Or I've got to be prepared for what I presume is going to happen when I walk through those doors or do this thing. But the truth is, you never step in the same river twice. You just don't. The universe is way too complicated and moving for anything to exactly repeat itself ever. And because the universe is a movement that is always unique in its ever-changing characteristics, the best way to live in this universe is to be agile, to be able to move with every change as and when that change arises. And to be agile is to be light. Think of a gazelle. They're very, very light, aren't they? Or a swift or a swallow. Very, very light. Or even more subtle, the dandelion seed. And when you're ready, flex your hips, means lift your feet with your knees apart. Bring your arms through the inside of your legs and lift your head and hold on to those little toe side of the feet, turning the feet up towards the ceiling. And you can play with it any way that causes breath release. You can roll, pushing one leg down, pausing, roll the other way, pushing one leg down, pausing. Expressive, honest. Natural. Letting go. There's nothing that needs to be carried over from one moment to the next. According to early Buddhist phenomenology, the universe is made up of dhammas, discrete particles that arise and immediately disappear, arise out of nothing and disappear, and their arising and disappearing gives the appearance of continuous, really existing things, but they're made of these dhammas, arising out of nothing, immediately disappearing into another. The reason it seems continuous is because each new dhamma that arises in the space of the one that's previous to it, and might take on some sense of continuity in the same way that a tree might take on aspects of the space it grows into, the space that was made by the previous tree. When you're ready, release and place and breathe expressively, honestly, naturally, like a closed fist became an open palm, like you're beginning to know, totally trust that emptiness is king. Emptiness is from where wisdom springs and compassion springs. Because emptiness is the way of listening. Supreme listening is emptiness, isn't it? And because all action is simply an expression of listening, what goes in expresses how we move and act in the world. Then if our listening is purified by trusting in emptiness, then all actions will be purified as well. So I encourage us all to totally trust in emptiness. When you're ready, raise just one leg. Let's say the one furthest away from me, and play with the foot in the air. Dorsiplantar flexion, scrunching, unscrunching, circling. By identifying tensions and releasing them. And we do that by making impressions, which are the movements we're making now. This is how we move into emptiness. Making impressions that trigger releases that we allow by not blocking the exit. When you're ready, bend the knee, reach up or walk up your leg, and maybe you can take hold of the sole of the foot, particularly if you push your leg down to the side of your ribs. There's no destination in the sense that we're not trying to get to a fixed external point, but we use trajectory towards external points like the floor to trigger the goal of yoga, which is reabsorption. So it doesn't matter if the leg reaches the floor or not, but the trajectory towards the floor will cause impressions, will cause the mind to shed whatever it's taken hold of. Just let yourself breathe. When you're ready, release, place, scoot under, and breathe deeply, expressively. Let go, let go, let go. Whatever, whatever the heart mind took hold of. I've compared it in my little book, which some of you have been kind enough to purchase and read. My little book, I've compared it to someone walking into the ocean with a handful of salt. And Ollie Smythe has done a really lovely picture of someone walking into the ocean. Looks like they're skinny dipping, actually, in the picture, with a handful of salt. And the image is that she goes into the water with a handful of salt. She doesn't even ungrip her fist, but when she comes out, the salt is gone. Has it been destroyed? No. Can it be found again? No. It's disappeared by being reabsorbed into the vastness of the ocean. Our separate sense of self, in the same way, disappears as we enter into the richness of the poses. Let's bring the other leg up with that view in mind. Holding the foot, pushing the leg to the side of the ribs. Doesn't matter if the other side of the body floats up. That's fine. Doesn't matter if we reach the floor or not. We're just making an impression. We're just making an impression. And it's that impression that triggers or reveals what is being held already. The metaphor in my little book is the foot in the muddy puddle. Press your foot into a muddy puddle, and as your foot goes in, the puddle makes space for your foot by releasing pockets of air. And in the same sort of way as we go into the body, we release whatever is previously held there. The deeper we go in, the more we release out. When ready, release your feet down to the floor. Take deep, natural, expressive breaths. Really expressive, like your whole experience is yes. The whole experience is yes. Yes. The Sanskrit word Om, meaning I agree, or yes. When you're ready, roll over onto your side and then come up from the side. Once you're up from the side, fold the end of your mat either over once or triple, like this, for extra padding. Now, looking around the room, it looks like most of you, if not all of you, have access to 2 of these blocks. But if you don't have 2 brick blocks, you can always use a brick block plus a foam block. Now, that'll be totally fine. What we're going to do first is place the brick block, one of the brick blocks, or it could be a foam block if you don't have to, over to the side, so that we can extend our leg and place the foot on it. The standing leg slopes a bit. The standing leg slopes a bit. The top of it is a bit closer to the foot than the bottom of it. That allows the hip joint to go in. To make that space, let the inner groin lift up. Hip joint goes in, the inner groin lifts up. So maybe you can even use the block and your thumb to feel that. Hip joint in, inner groin up. That uplift goes right the way through the spine. And we're going to use our other block now for our hand as we come down, nice and calm, into a version of Parighasana. So this is one block under the foot, one block for the hand. Can be full height, half height, lowest height, as you like. So it's kind of got a Uttita Trikonasana vibe. I may use the word vibe. Breathe through your nose, bottom ribs forwards, nice and calm. Find the pelvic floor until it's adhara, supportive. You can stretch the top arm up and over, but don't scrunch your head and neck. Your head and neck don't deserve that. Any movement down is not because you're moving your head out of the way, it's because the pelvis moves. The head doesn't need to move if the pelvis moves. So, and occasionally, some people might reach the floor. It's not better. Those people aren't doing, but they don't get a gold medal or anything. It just might mean that they've got long arms. They don't get gold medals for long arms. Otherwise, Gibbons would be wearing many gold medals. They'd look like Mr. T from the A-team with the gold medals they'd be wearing. So you might reach the floor, but you might just have long arms. Inhale. Come on up. Well done. Walk your back foot towards your front foot. And OVS, which is obviously short for obviously, we move everything the other way around. Breathe through your nose, a bit expressive. You know, things are happening, aren't they? Things are shifting. So we go with it. We're trusting in emptiness. I promise you can and should. One book I've really enjoyed, in case you want a book recommendation, is called, what's it called? Emptiness and Compassion by the Venerable Analayo. I think it's available in the bookshop downstairs. Anyway, if you want a good read, it's an academic book written by a monk. So, you know, it's a bit tech, but it is bloody good. Hip in, groin up, pointing to the essential, fundamental nature of emptiness in these traditions. When you're ready, you can raise your block if you want a bit more drama on the way in. I always like a bit more drama, if I can get it. Inhale, exhale, down you come. And you've got those choices. And you might start with the highest brick choice to give yourself some space. You know, akasha means space. And without space, things can't flow. I used to have this terrible metaphor. I just remembered it. I used to say, imagine trying to play football in a cupboard. I used to say, I don't know what ridiculous metaphor, really. But, you know, 2 or 3 people in the cupboard, there's no space, is there? So things can't move. They can't move the ball around. I don't know where that image came from. Football in a cupboard. Anyway, it's sort of relevant, isn't it? It's football time now in the World Cup. Sorry for anyone who supported England in that. Breathe through your nose, nice and calm. And then you've got the option to go up and over. Draw soft. You've got the option to lower the block if you wish. The long-armed people, that include gibbons. Rather wonderful monkey, a gibbon. Could perhaps, and it's not just long arm, it's long hamstrings, because I don't think I've got long arms actually. But if the hamstrings move, the pelvis can move. If the pelvis can move, or pose can move without crushing your head. Without bringing your arm like, you know, this. That's not it. That's not the movement we're looking for. Any movement is pelvic movement. Okay, wunderbar. Come on up. Wunderbar, I think, is German for wonderful. It sounds like it, doesn't it? I know you're thinking, where's my down-faced dog? All right, here it is. Just one for the road, as they say. If you've got a loose-fitting t-shirt and you're, someone with a sort of modest disposition, tuck it in. If you've got a loose-fitting t-shirt and you're someone of an immodest disposition, tuck it in. And then come up. And breathe through your nose if you can. And then I always think the first station is lila, play. The idea is, I call it limbering up. So you might be pedaling the heels, moving your knees, moving your back, limbering up. On the foundation of that first station. And the truth is, we often haven't established that first foundation. We need to spend the whole time in the pose on that first foundation, which is right and good. If you were a house builder and you hadn't really established the foundations properly, you wouldn't go ahead and build the building on top. You'd make sure the foundations were done first. So limbering up is first. In fact, it's first and last and always. Any Goths might remember that's a Sisters of Mercy song. And then the second station is palm equality. Palm equality. Equality across the palms, which is a real investigation. And on the foundation of that, then it's up. We stretch up. We stretch the armpits, inner armpit, followed by outer armpit, all the way through the ribs. And we fold. The big deal of down face dog is folding. Folding the pelvis over the thighs. Folding. Okay, well done, everyone. Coming down to regular kneeling position. One hand on top of the other. You can use a block between the heels and buttocks, or a blanket, or a rolled up blanket under the front ankles, or both. We should be able to sit comfortably. So make sure you use equipment so you can really sit up and breathe deep. Oftentimes there's naturally a bit of rolling, isn't there? Rolling left, rolling right, until we start to feel this loosening of the edges, permeable nature of the edges, and the ultimate dissolution of the edges. Expressive, natural, honest. We're going to bring ourselves down to laying on our back. My team of noisy builders have arrived just on time. Thanks, guys. Just put it down over there. Thanks. Got them in specially. It's a sort of tantric test. We're going to lay on our backs for our shavasana. Make sure, I'm not going to say make sure you're warm, but make sure you're comfortable. Maybe you want to support your head if it tips back. Shoulder blades scooted under the body. A buoyant, floaty, floaty, floaty. Buoyant, floaty, floaty, floaty chest. Those hands well clear of the yoga mat. So when you scoot the shoulder blades under, you get that real feeling of space. And the key word is Sharanagati, which is Sanskrit for surrender. I'm just going to press your shoulders. Sharanagati. Closely associated with that word Sharanagati is the Sanskrit word dana, meaning give. And when it's not specified what to give, we give whatever's available: weight, breath, opinions. Clinging to nothing whatsoever in all the world. The ultimate non-violence. And you feel happy to do so, stay in that expanded feeling and explore movement from that expanded feeling. Explore the movement of the toes. Explore the movement of the ankles. Explore the movement of the fingers. Explore the movement of the wrists. And then from their natural, spontaneous movements, like natural stretches. And once natural stretches have, as it were, accumulated, we'll feel ready to bend our legs. And that's just what we do next. We bend our legs and place the soles of the feet onto the floor, scooting the buttocks under and releasing the lower back entirely into the breath. Releasing the lower back entirely into the breath. When you feel ready, roll onto your side, facing away from the shrine side of the room. Lay as comfortably as you can. Knees drawn up. In your own time, roll easy in the other direction. Facing, therefore, towards the shrine side of the room. Let in a little light, a little color. And when you feel ready, bring yourself up nice and easy from the side, using your arms to assist your ascent so that you can face towards the shrine side of the room in a comfortable seated position with the knees lower than the hips if you've got cross-leg position, so maybe on a block, and the hands in prayer. Om just means I agree. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of any suffering of any being anywhere. Om. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Very grateful to you indeed. I feel like I should advertise something. I'll advertise the Free Tibet concert. 21st of October, there's a QR code in the hallway out there. Free Tibet concert. Tibet are going through real tough time, particularly, they have been for a long time now, particularly tough at the moment. So we've got a concert. If you want, it's also my album launch. It's on the 21st of October. It's not just me, though, don't worry. There are other musicians playing, including Lee Ross off the telly. You know Lee Ross from various things on the telly, but he's a wonderful musician too. It'll also be his birthday that day. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Zoomers too. Thank you so much. That's allowed. Thank you. See you soon. Be happy and well.